Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back to the channel. It is 8:30 in the morning East Coast time, May 16th, Thursday. We're going to break down the night slate, right? Not the earlier slate, the 4-game slate. I don't really care too much for baseball, smaller slates. The variance just is so high there. It's insane. A showdown slate or a 4-game slate in NBA has high variance. In baseball, it's ridiculous. Stacking kind of goes out the window, so there's your tip if you want to play the 4-game slate. It's still viable, but not as much so because the chances that you have 8 teams on a slate compared to usually like 20 plus for the MLB, the chances that one of those 8 teams scores 14 runs or 10 runs and you need them to stack become obviously a fraction of the percentage if you have 24 teams on the slate, a third of the chances, right? Especially depending on the teams that are on that slate, which this slate, there's a couple who can put up a big spot, but not many, I would say. So, let's just look at it like the pitchers like we have been. Again, if you're new here, my name's Sal Vetri. I cover daily fantasy sports and all the major sports and also golf, and we're going to get into WNBA very soon. One-man show here. It's been a ton of fun. Hit me with a like if you are new. If you are new here, if you're not, if you're returning, notification bell, subscribe if you get any value out of this video. I'm just going to go through the pitchers. There's 10 pitchers obviously on the slate. It's a 5-game night slate. I'll kind of talk through some things. It's early in the morning, like I said. These MLB breakdowns will get a little bit different as time goes on. More so this weekend. I'm going to kind of develop a stacks sheet so I can look at early in the morning stacks that I'm liking relative to where I think ownership will be relative to obviously Vegas run totals. Vegas run totals are the Bible of DFS in any sport. You should not try and fade them consistently, at least, because they know what they're doing over there. And obviously, if there's a bunch of teams favored for or projected for around 5 implied runs, then yeah, get off the one that has the most because they probably will get a lot of ownership. So couple of things for baseball today. There is clearly, and this is DraftKings salary, there's clearly just different tiers in the pitching today, and it's very, very wide. You have Luis Castillo, $10,600. The next closest is $1,400 difference. Jose Quintana. It's not that close, and those guys are pitching in the same game. So when it comes to pitching them or playing them, you kind of have to pick one. Well, why do you have to pick one? You're automatically reducing your upside. You're eliminating 4 fantasy points for a win if you're pitching both pitchers. Both pitchers can't get the win. Now, granted, they could each go 7 innings, give up no runs, or just one guy gives up 1 run, and the other guys are going to be in line for the win. But you're kind of going against yourself. You're limiting your upside. Obviously, those extra 4 points aren't huge, but they are the difference between cashing and not cashing, or winning first place and not winning first place. I would personally pick Luis Castillo. Again, this is just the second video, but I am a guy who will pay up for pitchers. In MLB, your starting pitcher, especially your starting pitcher 1, it has to get you there. Last night, Verlander goes for over 30. The night before, you get friggin' 40 plus out of Chris Sale. Your starting pitcher has to get you there. The guy you're paying up for most likely will, because there's a couple of reasons. Guys like this are going deeper into the games. They have great strikeout stuff. Luis Castillo is incredible from both sides of the plate, striking out both batters. And again, these stats I might have to refresh, but he's striking out both lefties and righties at an insane percentage, around 30% of the time, giving up no power to either of them. ERA 1.76. Now, we talked about yesterday, if your ERA is lower than your SIERA, it means you're getting a little bit lucky. But in certain situations, it doesn't matter because his SIERA is also the best on the slate at 3.48. Yes, that's a pretty big differential between SIERA and ERA. But when you're doing that well, that's going to be a natural differential. You're going to have a low ERA, but if you're also having a lower SIERA, then it's fine. Then that gap, I don't really think this pitcher's getting lucky. He still has an incredible SIERA. Your SIERA is never going to be 1.7, right? It's never going to be that low. But when you have a lower ERA, a natural differential between your SIERA and ERA will occur. So $10,600, yes, it's $1,400 more. Yes, he's the highest priced pitcher on the slate. Yes, you're not being contrarian or being different by playing him, but he is by far the guy that I would choose. The park factor, not great. The opponent, not great either. The third highest combined ISO on the slate is the Chicago Cubs. They also don't strike out as much. They're about average 26.5% on the slate. But now you're getting a dominant pitcher against one of the scarier teams, I would say, on the slate. You also have Atlanta on the slate. You also have Minnesota, even Seattle to an extent on the slate. But a scarier team to pitch against. But it's just by far, there's just too wide of gaps between Castillo and everybody else on the slate. So yes, if I'm building lineups for this 5-game slate, I'm starting with Castillo. I'm not trying to get cute and fade him, although you very well can. I mean, there's no reasoning Chicago can't get a few runs on him early, and then he's just 10,600 is a little bit too expensive, and you don't need him. I think realistically, though, his outcomes here, if not a win, or closer to his fantasy average, around 25 fantasy points on this slate, which out of every other pitcher on the slate, I don't think anybody even touches that. His ground ball percentage is up, which is good, and his strikeout percentage is up, which means he's giving up very few fly balls. We can see that in the numbers. His hard hit percentage is down, and he just doesn't give up home runs. So even in a hitter's ballpark, this is the exact pitcher you want, a guy who limits the damage and can strike guys out. So I'm going to ride with Castillo, which pretty much gets me off of Jose Quintana. It's just because I'm limiting my upside. They both can't get wins here, and if they're both 0-0 scoreless in the seventh, then neither of them are going to get a win. So I lose both of my win upside. So that's realistically what you would be cheering for, both of them to go deep into the game and not give up runs. Well, right there, you're losing out on win upside for both of them then. So I kind of just gloss over Jose Quintana there. The guy I probably look to next, and there's a few, they're right in the same range. I like Marcus Stroman, and then Terrion, I like him a little bit as well. Trevor Williams, I kind of gloss over here. San Diego, the park factor is not that great. It's kind of close to neutral for what he'll be pitching in today. The walks are down, which is good. The home runs are down, which is good. The team that he's playing strikes out a good amount. So Trevor Williams at 8,300, if I can get there, I'm fine with it, but I'm kind of neutral to him because I do like going down to Marcus Stroman for 7,700, facing a team that is one of the lower ISO teams on the slate with the Chicago White Sox, and they do strike out a bunch. They're right there in the top 4 in this slate, pretty much tied for a virtual tie for first, give or take, with the highest strikeout rate on the slate. You do have Marcus Stroman coming off of a shakier start for him, and he's a guy who does bounce back. He has a nice SIERA around 4.15. That's the third highest on the slate. ERA kind of reflects that at 3.2. The home runs, again, not giving up a lot of power, and that's good because he's playing a team that just doesn't hit home runs or just doesn't have a lot of power. Yes, he's playing in a ballpark that does favor batters slightly, but I'm not that worried about it. So Stroman probably is the guy that I pair with Castillo more times than not. I'm fine if you want to go up to Trevor Williams. I think he's also in a decent spot. He's clearly a good pitcher, but Stroman would be the guy that I target. I think Stroman's win upside potentially a little bit higher as well when you have Toronto going up against Dylan Covey today, depending on how long Dylan Covey pitches. Covey, a lot of things grayed out well. Not only has Toronto been terrible, not only does Toronto strike out a lot, but Covey, I just can't get there. At 6,200, if you want to throw a dart and go all the way down to Covey, I won't say you're making the worst decision of your life, but I think it's pretty damn close. We don't know if Covey's going to pitch 2 innings. We don't know if he's going to pitch 4, but that's like your upside there. So that's why I usually don't like to punt, because especially on a slate like this, there's not many great options down there to choose from in terms of punts. I don't want Michael Pineda at 7,300. People were playing him 40% of the time in the last slate. People might get to him again today. His fastball has just lost significant velocity, and he continues to throw it. It's a pitch he throws the most, and he's also about 4 or 5 miles per hour on it. So what that translates to is he's throwing a flat fastball, which leads to home runs. So in terms of players and stacks, I think Seattle's a great stack. I think Michael Pineda, the last I checked, he's continuing to throw this flat fastball where he gave up 3 or 4 home runs in the last game. So he should be making adjustments. We have yet to see it so far. They're going to be playing in the most favorable ballpark for pitchers, which is a little bit better for Pineda here. So what I get from that is that I like Seattle as a stack. I have not even looked at implied run totals yet. It's too early for that, but I like Seattle as a stack against Pineda, a guy who's throwing a flat fastball. You can get some of the lefties from the Seattle lineup. I'm fine going really either way here. He does give up a ton of isolated power. Pineda, again, flat fastball to both sides of the plate. He gives up a little bit more to righties, but they're both the highest on the slate in terms of what he gives up to lefties, and what he gives up to righties is a virtual tie with Dylan Covey. So stacking against Michael Pineda makes a lot of sense to me today. I do like that quite a bit. If you want to get hitters in the Cincinnati-Chicago game, because it is such a great park factor, then I would go, if you're going to play Luis Castillo, go with the Cincinnati guys. You're banking on a win there, so they obviously have to score some sorts of runs. I have not checked the run totals. You're stacking against Jose Quintana, who I don't think garners a lot of ownership today, because Castillo should, and then it's going to be tough to get both of them in, and it doesn't make sense to get both of them in. So you're not really getting any leverage there, but I think stacking Cincinnati makes a little bit of sense. I more so like to lean into stacking Seattle here, and then going all the way down and stacking Toronto a little bit. I think Vlad Guerrero is still going to be too cheap. He just hit his first Major League home run. I'm fine stacking him there. The ballpark factor is not as great, but again, you're getting Dylan Covey here, a guy who, in a very limited sample size, though, it just can't get it together. SIERA at 7.8. Again, very limited sample size for this guy, but walk percentage through the roof. You're talking about one start, pretty much. Walk percentage through the roof. Hard hit percentage is decent, but everything else is bad. Not getting ground balls, giving up way too many fly balls. He's giving up a lot of fly balls here. him not giving up hard hit percentage is good. Righties, so when I'm talking about stacking here, I'd focus on the righties. He's actually pitching well. And again, this is such a small sample size, so it's really hard to speak on. But I would target some righties here. I'm fine if you get to anything. So Toronto looks like a good stack for me. I'm targeting this guy in Dylan Covey. And then Seattle looks like a good stack for me in terms of going against Michael Pineda. And then you can go really anywhere else. And the thing that is nice is if you're going to go with a Marcus Stroman, stacking Toronto makes a lot of sense. You're going to get correlation there. If Marcus Stroman has a great game, well, stacking Toronto means that if he's having a great game and he gets the win, which is an extra 4 fantasy points, which is meaningful, I would say. A lot of people don't think it's meaningful. I think that it is. If he's going to get that win, then it's pretty easy to see that Toronto is going to score some runs. So I don't think anything I'm saying is really out of the norm today. I think Castillo is by far and away the best pitcher on the slate. I think Marcus Stroman in the mid-range makes for a lot of sense. I think that there's a couple other pitchers in that mid-range. Trevor Williams, Terrion. I haven't really talked about Wainwright. I think that he's fine. He grades out as a guy who is giving up a lot of hard hit percentage, but so is everybody else in that range. But he's still fine with ground ball percentage, has a low fly ball percentage, which is really good. He just doesn't have as high of a strikeout rate as some other guys, which, again, Stroman doesn't really either, but he's facing a team that's going to strike out a little bit more, so that's nice. So in terms of pitchers, Castillo, Marcus Stroman, and Trevor Williams are really where I'm looking in terms of my 3 interests. If you want me to give you a fourth, it would be Terrion. In the order, I'd probably go Castillo. Depending on if I can get to Trevor Williams, more of Trevor Williams, and then Stroman. Stacks I like are Toronto against Dylan Covey, and I really like a lot Seattle against Michael Pineda. So that's where I'm going right now. Let me know what you guys think. Where are you stacking? Let me know in the comments down below. Again, if you got any value throughout this video, just let me know. I'm going to go bounce. So thank you. My name's Sal. You already know that. Peace out, gang.